You're listening to episode 191 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
Merry Christmas, everybody. This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. Now, obviously, this is not being recorded live. Hopefully, at this point, we are, because it's Christmas Eve, we are at home having fun.
With our families, that's right. So this is pre-recorded, just in case anybody did not know.
But virtually, from wherever I am, I wish all of you a Merry Christmas.
That's right. And we will be opening one gift tonight, maybe.
Really? That's your Christmas Eve thing?
That's actually how we grew up. We'd open one gift on Christmas Eve and then all of our presents Christmas morning. Now that our kids are grown, we celebrate at different times, and the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day doesn't matter as much. Our only tradition has been growing up with our immediate family, our kids, is we would read the Christmas story, and we would share a little bit about our blessings and dive into the presents and have a good time, yeah, and then play games.
Well, we've got a Christmas gift for everybody today, and it is our man Scott Kedersha, who's been with us before, but he is kind of an expert on the subject and topic of marriage. That's a little bit daunting to call somebody an expert on marriage. I don't think anybody is. But let's just say he's passionate about this subject and loves to encourage others about it.
And the reason why we're playing it the week of Christmas is some of you spouses are getting on the other spouse's nerves. So we thought it would be good just to remind you. By the way, I want to say that Scott is from one of the leading churches, in my opinion. There are many churches who do marriage well, but Watermark has developed a reputation for being one of the leading churches in America for dealing with various aspects of marriage, whether it's premarital, whether or not it's dealing with that merge coming together, or helping people who are thinking about divorce or have been divorced. They really hit it from the critical angles, and Scott is one of the key leading thought leaders, architects within the church doing that. He's written his own book, and he's also written as a contributing author to a brand new book we have just released called Recalibrate. Have you seen that book yet, Jeremy?
Totally have. You guys launched it at the D6 conference.
That's right. We did. And I'll tell you, just to brag on all the authors, I got to be one of the contributing authors, and I'm just one. I kind of mapped out the direction of the book and then went and recruited the authors to participate. And it's a who's who list. I mean, I was just honored just to have my name among the midst of all these others. People like Brian Haynes, who wrote on staff development, bringing your staff together for family ministry. Timothy Paul Jones wrote on the topic of, what do you do when your kids are coming but your parents are not? Scott Kedersha, he's writing on the marriage. So if you like what you're hearing, just realize you get even deeper with him. And then there's other authors like Jimmy Myers, Philip Nation, Jim Putman, Lydia Randall, Richard Ross, Jay Struther, Scott Taransky, Jim Weidman, Christopher Ewan. I mean, it's an incredible lineup. Tammy Daughtry's another one in there. I'm probably leaving somebody out, and if I did, please forgive me.
That is an all-star team, my friend. Good job on bringing them together. I must have gotten my invitation lost in the...
well, when you didn't respond, I filled you in with, I won't tell you who, but...
It was probably Scott Kedersha.
Yeah.
This is just your twisted
That's
way.
That's right.
Of...
That's my way. And now we're going to interview. But, no, the book's titled Recalibrate. This is the time of year going into a new year. People are thinking that. So this is a good title to pick up and start reading at the beginning of the year.
That's good. And you can go to d6family.com to get that book. And you're going to enjoy the interview. Right after the break, we're going to have Scott Kedersha. He's going to answer our frequently asked questions about marriage. And boy, there are a lot. We'll see you soon, right after the break.
Right now I'm joined by Scott Kedersha, who is a three-time podcast guest. Scott, thank you for joining us. Three times podcast guest. Yes, you've been here 3 times. We actually just talked recently, and we're getting to do it again, so it's kind of cool. For those who aren't familiar with Scott, let me just tell you, he's the director of marriage ministry at Watermark Community Church, where he has served on the marriage team since 2006. Through Watermark's marriage ministry, he has helped people prepare nearlyweds, establish newlyweds, and enrich and restore all marriages. His first book, Ready or Not, was just released several months ago. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be back again. Good to be here with you, David.
Well, we just talked about your book just a few months ago, so we really don't have much to talk about today.
Not much, no.
So we're just going to have to...
We're done. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, shortest podcast ever. No, you've actually been doing a lot. You've written this book. You actually are on the cover of the current Brink magazine, or at least your article is. Ready or Not, an interview that you did for our fall edition of the Brink magazine. I haven't told you this, but you actually have the cover article for the winter edition of the Brink magazine. So yeah, you're kind of all over the place. But since we just talked about your book recently, I thought what might be fun is if we actually took some of our listener questions and we tossed it out to them and said, what would you like to know from Scott about marriage? And the questions poured in. And so since you've written this book, I thought we could toss some questions your way about marriage that our listeners really want to know, because a lot of these answers are in your book and you talk about them, and I figured you could kind of just share some of your knowledge with the people.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Some of these are, well, they're all over the place. So here's the first one. How do you make time to cultivate intimacy in marriage when you have small kids?
Start with an easy one. All right, let's see. Yeah.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd start by just saying that's a very legitimate challenge, right? If you've got young kids, you're tired, you are maybe nursing, breastfeeding, changing diapers, your schedule's crazy. And so to make time for it is a big challenge. So one, you're not crazy if that's part of your story. I just want to affirm that that's a challenge. I remember hearing Gary Thomas say this years ago, and I think it's so helpful, is that the danger in thinking, well, this is a special season of life, and so therefore we have an excuse, we have a kind of get out of jail free card with this, and we don't have to be intimate, is that there's always going to be seasons in the life of a married couple. And so yeah, it's legit when you got young babies and you're tired and nursing and all that, but there's always going to be something. See, I'd say our biggest challenge now are my kids are 15, 12, and 10. We're not nursing, breastfeeding, changing diapers, but now when the bedroom door is closed, the kids know what we're doing. And so the challenges change over the years. And so just being able to say there's always going to be a season in front of you. So practically, there's opportunity to serve one another here. That for the husband, that maybe if you're in the mood to be intimate, this is a great opportunity to just serve your wife and let her do what she wants to do. Or if, ladies, you're not in the mood, it's a great opportunity for you to serve your husband maybe when you're not in the mood. And so it's a selfless opportunity for both husband and wife. And then I'd say you've just got to be creative. And so maybe when kids are school, when kids are taking a nap, if you're have flexibility over lunch, that's a great time to come home, and while baby's sleeping, you can be intimate with your spouse. It changes over the years, and so to really be intimate is just a great opportunity to serve and put the needs of the other before your own.
I probably should have prefaced it and said this is like our first PG-13 podcast for some of these questions. But these are serious questions people have, and that was a great answer. The next one, it just says, in-laws and holidays, help.
All right.
And I just, my wife is going to be listening to this. Yes. I want to let her know I did not come up with these questions. Yeah. So,
well, you were just telling me, David, how much you love your in-laws, and so way to go. And that's for your wife to let her know how much you are crazy about them. But with the in-laws, here's a couple things that I share in the book that I think are helpful. And so one is don't choose sides. And so in that, you want to speak really kindly about your significant other to your parents or her parents. You don't want to create this kind of relationship. Like a dad is always looking for any excuses to not like his daughter's husband or daughter's boyfriend. And so not choosing sides, speaking kindly. The relationship will change, and so you do have to leave and cleave. And so as a reminder for parents and in-laws, the parent-child relationship is no longer the number one relationship. When you get married, you're one flesh, and it becomes this new priority where yes, you don't dishonor your parents, but the priorities change and your spouse becomes the higher priority. And then I always say you just want to treat them like you want to be treated. It's like in the Sermon on the Mount, the golden rule, that you want to treat them like, doing others like you want them to do to you. And so with your in-laws, you're not going to gossip. You're not going to speak negatively. You're going to honor them as much as possible. You want to choose peace and unity. And so I was thinking of, Romans 12:18. Whatever you can, do everything you can to live at peace with others. Or I think about, get the log out of your own eye, Matthew 7. You want unity in the spirit of the bond of peace with your in-laws. And so you don't want to pick fights. You want to be unified with them. And then on holidays, I think the biggest thing is be on the same page, be a team. One of the worst things I see people do is like the daughter calls her parents and says, hey, we're not going to be able to come visit for Christmas because my husband doesn't want to come. So it makes him look like the bad guy. And so just be united, be a team. And I'd say in-law relationships are a great opportunity for, it doesn't have to be negative. It can be fantastic. And so the poor in-laws get such a bad reputation when it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Here comes another question from one of our listeners. What should you do when you realize after getting married that you and your spouse are on very different levels when it comes to spiritual maturity?
Man, that's so hard. And that's why we say on pre-married couples, it's so important to do this hard work before marriage. So it's real clear, the Bible tells us very clearly who not to marry. It's a believer, don't marry a non-believer. That's 2 Corinthians 6, it's very clear. But I think what we often miss is we check the box and go, well, he's a follower of Christ and she's a follower of Christ, therefore things are going to work. But they're running at really different paces. And so on the pre-married side, do the hard work. And then if you are somebody, you get married and you realize you're unequally yoked, I love 1 Peter 3. It says, wife, win him over by your conduct. Not by nagging him, not by being annoying, not by pressuring him, but just pursue Jesus, pursue Christ. And then focus on being faithful. You can't make them grow spiritually, but bring others in, get some community around them, pray for them, and then just hope that God changes their hearts and you be faithful pursuing Jesus while you wait for them to catch up with you.
Yeah, and I mentioned the title of your book, Ready or Not, and that's not KNOT, but I didn't mention the subtitle, and that's 12 Conversations Every Couple Needs to Have Before Marriage. So a great book for couples to read before they get married, but as I've said before, this is a tremendous book to read if you just got married or if you've been married 30 years. I've read through it twice because there's so much good content there. So no matter what stage you're at, this book definitely fits there. This is one of the questions that I think a lot of us can relate to. It says, it feels like my spouse and I are married to our phones more than each other. How can we divorce our phones and not make them such a priority in our marriage?
This is one I'd like to just turn around and ask you, David, what do you think I should do? Because this is so hard, right? I would love to hear what do you think, but...
I'm a failure at this. I'm terrible at this one, so I could write this one.
I mean, it is a real battle. I mean, so one, just acknowledge it, and we're so dependent on them for so many different things. Right now, I think over time we can become more and more and more dependent. That's more useful. And so just a few things that I've suggested is trying to create some safety zones where you don't have your phones. So dinner table, date nights. You don't need to always have it on you. Put it in the other room. Make sure that you are talking to your spouse. One of the biggest problems I see now in couples is that they really never communicate. They're never looking eye to eye with each other. There's always a phone between them, and it's a big battle for me as well. So I love Andy Crouch has got some great stuff on it. His book, The Tech-Wise Family, is outstanding. And he references in there that every day he goes an hour a day without the phone. He goes 1 day a week without a phone, and then 1 week a year without it. And so just that rhythm of every day, there's going to be a time when my wife and I, my family, we're connected in such a way that our phones are not the obstacle. They're not sitting between us. And so every day find that, and then maybe 1 day a week, maybe Saturday or Sunday, you just put the devices away. You spend time outside. You play board games. You communicate. You go for a walk. You exercise. And you leave the phone behind. And so you have more opportunity to be face-to-face with each other.
I actually heard that Amazon now sells timed safes that you can put a phone or a video game controller in, and you set the timer for 2 hours or whatever you want, and you cannot get that safe open until that time ends. And people are doing that now.
It's a great idea, but it's crazy that it's come to that.
Yes.
Right? That we don't have that much self-control. And we do. We do have self-control. And so it's a matter of we don't have to lose this battle. Mm-hmm. And so it's such a good challenge. I don't like that question, but I need help on that one so much.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
This next question, I feel this applies to a lot of people because life has gotten so busy. The listener wrote, "My spouse and I work jobs that are both demanding and draining. By the time we get home, we have very little energy left for each other and our kids. How do we find the energy we don't have and not give our family our leftovers?"
Yeah, that's another good one. So I think first thing I do, I'm going to push back a little bit and challenge some folks on this, is just asking the question. I don't know who asked it, I don't know who's listening, but why are you both working? Is that something you both have to do? Is that something that you're both working to support a higher income level, a higher level, standard of living? And it's very possible that, that not both husband and wife need to work. And I'm not going to say who should, husband or wife, but it's very possible that you don't need to work full-time jobs. Now, many of us do out there, many people do, but why not ask that? If you're exhausted, are there some other options? And if it's affecting your marriage, your kids, your energy level, your walk with Jesus, I think you put everything on the table and say, what can we get rid of? What do we not have to do? And then if you do have to work, I love this reminder. Andy Stanley wrote a book years ago called Choosing to Cheat. And it says essentially that we're all going to have to cheat somewhere, that we're going to either have to cheat our spouse or not cheat on them, but we're going to take time away from them or time away from our kids or time away from work. There are a lot of people who can do my job. There's only one person in the world that can be Kristen's husband, only one person who's a dad to Duncan, Drew, Carson, and Lincoln. And so I can't sacrifice my time with my family on the altar of succeeding at my job. If I do great at work but lose my family, what's the win there? What's the gain? And so just what are your motives, and making sure that you're making the main thing the main thing.
That'll preach right there.
Yeah.
Another question that came up, how do you explain to your kids that mom and dad need alone time, but that doesn't mean we don't want to spend time with them?
Yeah, okay, so we all like to spend time with our kids, or we know our kids are needy, but the problem is we make it a child-centered home where the whole world revolves around them. Somehow they think it's about them. It's because we make it about them. And so the best way for me to raise my kids and love my kids is to make sure that I'm fully devoted to loving Jesus and then loving their mom. And so that means I'm going to pursue her, I'm going to love her, and they may be mad in the moment, but ultimately in the long run, take a long-term view here, this is going to be better for them if I'm pursuing their mom and my wife really, really, really well. And so letting them know that this is important for us to do as a couple, that I've got to date my wife, love my wife. It doesn't mean I don't love my kids, but I've got to take care of my marriage. And then when I am with them, when I am with my kids, I want to be fully present. That's where you put the phone away and you're fully locked in with them, and you let them know you're a priority. I want to be with you. That makes it easier to take some times when you go on a date with your spouse, or even spend a night away or a couple nights away from each other.
That's good. Okay, here's one that's a little off. We'll just say that. Hypothetically, if your husband refuses to throw away certain clothes, even though they are decades old and have holes where they shouldn't, am I allowed to throw them away? Hypothetically, that question may have come in from my wife.
I think it did. Yeah, I don't know. I think she's right, David. I hate to tell you that. I mean, do I need to go buy you some new boxers? Is that what this is about? Is that a hint?
It's about comfort. That's what it's about.
Yes. Yeah, get rid of them. That's all I got to say about
mom. Of course,
mom.
you're going to take her side.
Take her side.
Now, here's a question I'm just going to ask for me personally, because it's something my wife and I are dealing with. We have a 10-month-old. We don't have family within 5 hours of us. Yeah. How can we find those times to be just alone, just have our date nights when we don't have family to come and babysit? We don't have people near us to come and babysit. And, I mean, we've had, since our son was born, a little over 10 months ago, we've had like one, maybe 2 date nights since then. And we know that's not healthy and that's not good, but what do we do when we're kind of caught in the middle of what do we do?
Yeah, I understand that. We grew up, or not grew up, our kids were born in Texas. My family live in New Jersey. My wife's family lives in Memphis. And so we've had some of the similar challenges when our kids were young. And we did a couple things that I think were really, really helpful. One, because dating each other in marriage is such a high priority, we put a line item in the budget and we paid for a babysitter. We got friends from church, we got people we knew from church who were recommended, neighbors, girls who would babysit our kids. And we let them, we'd go on a cheaper date, right? So we might go to Chick-fil-A and spend $12 on dinner, or go to Starbucks and spend $7 or $8 total on drinks, and then more money went towards the babysitter than to the date itself. And so finding somebody that you can pay and making a line item in your budget. And then the one that we do the most successful is we found other friends who had kids who were the same age as ours. And so we would do a babysitting swap, not trade kids permanently, but the wife would come watch our kids and we would go on a date, and my wife would go watch their kids. They'd go on a date.
I like that.
And it's free. It's the best way to do it, because frankly, you can spend so much money on a babysitter that you got nothing left to actually spend on your date. And so find someone to watch them, find a friend and swap. We needed it so badly. We had twins, and so those were some really, really stressful months for us. And so getting somebody to watch our kids so we can go on a date was huge.
Wow. Wow, twins. I'm just thinking, no. Now, I want to ask you this last question and kind of focus on your book just for a second, because you talk about those 12 conversations every couple needs to have before marriage. What is something that most couples are not thinking about that they need to be thinking about before marriage?
It's a great question. All right, I'm going to give one on the. I'm going to give two.
Okay.
You said one, but I'm going to give two. Yeah. One on the pre-married side for those who are listening who are not married yet, or those who are counseling, those who are not married. That spiritual conversation has got to be one of the first conversations, if not the first. So often couples meet each other, they're attracted, they like the same TV shows and same restaurants and have fun together, and they get months down the road and their hearts are drawn towards each other, but they're not on the same page spiritually. And so first and foremost, they've got to have that conversation to let them know where the other one is spiritually. And it can't just be some friends. I just did a wedding a couple weeks ago, and the wife said to her now husband, when they first started going out, she said, I need you to know one thing. I need you to know that Jesus is the Lord of my life. And I don't tell you that just as a check the box so that we can move on and both be Christians. I tell you that because he is the center of everything I do. And if you're not in that same place, that same space, then we can be friends, but we're not going to keep moving forward in our relationship. I love the way that she did that. So spiritual conversation early on and constant on the pre-married side. And then shift gears for the married couple out there. You got to build that friendship. So often couples are so busy with life and bills and baby and job, and they forget to pursue each other. And so I want to encourage any married couple out there, and it's one of the chapters in the book, of building the friendship, of companionship, date each other, have fun, and don't quit being romantic and pursuing each other just because you're married. You got to continue to pursue your spouse.
Well, the book is called Ready or Not, 12 Conversations Every Couple Needs to Have Before Marriage. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking these questions that real people are having. Real people are asking real needs. This is helpful, and so is your book, and so is your ministry.
Thank you.
How many couples, real quick, we talked about this in a previous podcast, how many couples have you actually affected or counseled over the years?
I don't know. It's over 6,000-7,000 by now that have come through our premarital ministry over the years.
That's incredible.
And it's a lot of them are non-believers. They're unchurched. It's been an amazing opportunity just to get to pour the gospel and the right thinking into marriage into so many couples.
That's incredible. Well, Scott Kedersha, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Jeremy, where'd you get all those questions?
They weren't my questions. I've got marriage figured out, Ron. Yeah,
I love
right.
it. I tell you what, there are a ton of questions we have, and it doesn't matter how long or how short you've been married. That's an area we can always work on. Thanks, Scott, for bringing that insight to us.
And thanks to David for taking the time to gather the questions. That was really cool.
Yes, absolutely. Great prep on that. So next week, we mentioned Recalibrate. We have another author of Recalibrate, Brian Haynes.
great guy. And the thing that he's going to be talking about is he's going to be talking about a couple of things, but one of them is his passion for leading trips to Israel and the Holy Land. So if that's a dream of yours, if that's on your bucket list, you want to hear what he has to say. He's got a lot of cool information, and I think you'll enjoy it. Have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas. I hope you and your family have a wonderful time this holiday. I hope it is a restful, beautiful, wonderful time of hanging out and worshiping together. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.